Hi there. Now we're going to review lesson 300. Only an instant does this world endure. Paragraph 1. This is a thought which can be used to say that death and sorrow are the certain lot of all who come here, for their joys are gone before they are possessed or even grasped. Yet this is also the idea that lets no false perception keep us in its hold, nor represent more than a passing cloud upon a sky eternally serene. And it is this serenity we seek, unclouded, obvious, and sure today. So look at the contrast of this thought. So we're in lesson 300. We have had 299 lessons to prepare our mind to receive that this world that we see that includes death and sorrow is really not real. And as much as we keep looking at it and saying, I'm going to a funeral, somebody just died of cancer, somebody's house just burnt down, somebody was just murdered, somebody was just raped, somebody was just dumped by their lover, somebody was just beheaded, somebody was just fired, somebody just lost everything that they had with the hurricane. As we look at the world out there and we begin to point at those things and make them real, we are going to experience the sorrow and the suffering that comes with it, because we're saying that those things have power. When we come to the place of recognizing that the power is inside of us and that we are the ones who have projected a world, when we operate from the ego, we are operating a world that reflects back to us our sense of disconnection, our sense of separation, our sense of suffering, and we project it out there. Now we can begin to deal with the world that is happening from a serene place, because now we get to respond to what is happening from a state of grace, from the recognition that we can access God, the all-knowing Father, Mother, God, and we can say, God, what would you have me do in this moment, so that we can be informed through the Holy Spirit on how to bring love to what is happening. Because the experience of suffering is happening. And I use quotation marks because in consciousness, suffering is not possible. But because we have separated ourselves from knowing, because we are knowing with our own little ego mind, so we only know very little and we defend that. Because we have separated ourselves from the all-knowing mind, we don't have access to what to do in a certain moment. So the Course is very clear. Everything is love or a call for love. If there is suffering, it is calling for our love. How do we bring love to the situation? We don't see what is out there as disempowered people who are being hurt. We don't see ourselves as disempowered people who are being hurt. Rather, we see ourselves as the presence of the Creator, wholly beyond measure. So powerful are each and every one of us that we have created experiences that give us opportunities to be the presence of love, or those experiences are calling for love. So when we say only an instant does this world endure, in the instant that you watch things outside of you and you recognize that you can love it and not be affected by it, you are in alignment with God's will. In the instant that you recognize that that thing is affecting you, that you've given it power because that irritation is an invitation, you can then recenter yourself and say, God, I forgive myself. I forgive myself for having forgotten that I am here to bring love to the situation. This situation is calling for love. When I see it as something that I'm judging as wrong, as bad, as it shouldn't be happening, that situation is giving me an opportunity to see that I forgot for an instant that the world is really not powerful over me, that I have power over it. And I know that. Others may not know that. And those who are caught up in it, if they don't know that, I need to bring love to them. It is a call for my love, my understanding. Let me go hug them. Let me put an arm around them. Let me see, how can I help you? How can I be in service to you? What can I do that might assist you while you are caught up? And you don't tell them this unless, of course, it's somebody that you have that wants to be held accountable to truth. But while you're caught up in believing that something outside of you can hurt you, what can I do to support you, to help remind you of how powerful you are, that you can always choose to see this thing differently? You can always choose to shift your perspective about it. And while you're caught up in the energies of the world right now, how can I love and support you so that you can be able to find your steady alignment, come into alignment with source within you? How can I stand as that for you? And those who are, like somebody asked me that question, I know exactly what to tell them. Don't believe for a second in my powerlessness. Don't think of me as a victim. Just think of me as somebody who has been hijacked by my ego. I'm allowing myself to get pulled out of my center. See me as one who can shift my perception and come back into alignment. See me as one who can accept the atonement the minute that I enter into the process of forgiveness. That is how I like to be seen. And it's how I saw my son when he was going through his drug adventure. And it's how I saw my boyfriend this year when he entered into the story that I was trying to change him by saying to him that he was powerful and he could look at things differently. And that was very upsetting to him because, as he told me in the beginning of our relationship, that he's has fears, he's depressed. Well, and he said he wanted help. So I took him at his word, and that he wanted to be happier, that he wanted to be more peaceful and more grounded and feel as much energy as I have. So when I was offering suggestions, he saw that as threat, and because the ego, that's what the ego does. The ego says, what, you're trying to change me? Well, when we are committed to the truth, we want to shift out into alignment. We don't want people to join us in our ego party. But if we are not ready to receive that alignment, we're going to see anybody who's trying to help us and hold us accountable to the truth. We're going to see them as somebody who's not accepting us, somebody who is not, who doesn't love us because they're telling us there's something wrong with us. Well, that's just the way that it's going to be because egos don't want to be changed. They don't want to be changed. So everything is going to be looked at that way. But we are being asked to see, only an instant does this world endure. Only an instant can we be caught up in our ego. And when we are committed to alignment, then what we do is we know that our eternal holiness walks beside us. We want to come back to that eternal holiness. We want to move out of the edges of life where we move into the ego's pleasure and pain, positive, negative, and we want to come into alignment with the truth of who we are. That requires an incredible amount of courage, but that commitment is the commitment to shift and lift, to shift perception from the density of fear and lift into the high frequency of love. But we have to know that we have the ability to do that, because if we don't really believe that we can do that, and you can't believe that you can do that until you practice it and see how good it feels to align with truth, we are going to remain on the ego side thinking that we already know everything. I may want to feel good, but if the thoughts in my head tell me that I can't feel good, that I've not been a good person, or that I'm not worthy of feeling good, or I can never feel as good as that person, then if I don't know that I can shift my perception, I can't experience the miracle. If I haven't done that enough times to know that it works, I'm going to stay inside my victim story. And when we're in our victim story, we don't want help. We want people, misery wants company, not enlightenment, not alignment, not another way of seeing things. That's why we get stuck in control mode and needing to control what we believe, because that's what we're believing is true and right. And we cannot imagine that there can be something else outside of that, not in that moment, while we are seeing the world in that instant as real. So paragraph number 2, we seek your holy world today. This is an active participation. I am seeking alignment, so I will accept it from anybody around me. Absolutely will accept it. But if you are not seeking to have the truth and be accountable to the truth, then you're not yet being honest enough with yourself to know that you have two voices, and one is love and one is fear, and that you can shift at will. Until we know that we can shift, we're not going to seek the good feeling truth that is consistent when we acknowledge we are the ones who have the power to choose to see the world of the ego or to know the holy world that God actually created. So let me repeat paragraph 2, sentence 1. We seek your holy world today. For we, your holy sons, have lost our way a while. Somebody who is caught up in their ego cannot believe that they lost their way a while. Somebody who is aware that they have an ego can say this, but not somebody who thinks that they are their thoughts. They cannot for 1 second think that they lost their way. They think you lost your mind when you're trying to tell them that they can shift. They think you lost your way when you are trying to remind them that there is a holy, peaceful place inside of them that they could align with that. So let me read this again. For we, your loving sons, have lost our way a while, but we have listened to your voice and learned exactly what to do to be restored to heaven and our true identity. And we give thanks today. Today, the world endures but for an instant. We would go beyond that tiny instant to eternity. Again, this is lesson 300. If you understand what this lesson is telling you, it's because you've already experienced shifting, because you have already experienced the gift of forgiveness. So you are mature enough in your spiritual journey to understand that these prayers, these statements of truth, you have felt them. If you're saying these statements and they don't resonate with you, it's because you haven't really felt the truth of them yet. Stay with it. Fake it till you make it. Say these things and ask God to show you. Ask Holy Spirit to guide you. Ask Christ to help you feel it. Because the more that you decide that this is true and possible, the more you will be able to commit to shifting your perception, to saying, yes, please help me. Please point out when I'm in my ego. That's why I love coaching my clients, because I only work with people who have made the decision to be held accountable to the truth of who they are. These are people who have said, yes, I am powerful beyond measure. I don't fully believe that I have access to that power on a day-to-day basis, but I believe that it is there for me to access. And when that decision is made, then having somebody tell us, listen, you're believing your ego right now. You're thinking you're not capable. You're believing that you are small. You're believing that that thing has power over you. Then they are willing to say, yes, help me see things differently. Help me see things the right way. So we get a coach typically to help us before we are willing to go inside and ask the Holy Spirit. But just the simple act of trusting that there is another way is important. It's a very important first step into coming inside to ask the Holy Spirit, to ask God to please, this question, for we, your loving sons, have lost our way a while. To acknowledge we have lost our way a while is because we have come to the place of realizing that there is another way that we need to return to. And we're asking for this voice to guide us so that we can make our way there. If we're not ready to acknowledge that, we are not going to want to receive help from anybody. Doesn't matter who they are, even if they're our partner, even if they're our mother, even if they're our brother, our sister, even if they're our minister. We don't want to hear it. Even if they're our coach, we don't want to hear it if we don't really, truly, truly believe that there is another way and we want it. Thanks a bunch, and I'll see you in the next lesson.